The rental market is hot, and prospective tenants, when you're putting in your application, it needs to be sexy, and we're going to teach you how to make it sexy.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mr. Drury.
Another big topic, another big day.
It's a big topic. There's a lot of people putting rental applications in at the moment, and a lot of people getting them knocked on the head, and tenants don't know why, and they need help. The agents don't want to help them because they've already got a tenant that they've accepted. What do? Who do they call?
That's right. There's a few fundamental mistakes we see repeated again and again, and we're gonna share a few of those tips with you on how to better your chances of securing the property.
It's interesting. It's an interesting rental market, and at the moment we're seeing a severe lack of stock. So we're carrying sort of a half to a third of what we'd normally carry at this time of year. And what I reckon, Billy, is that's going to end up pushing those rents up. And I reckon that's going to end up making the whole application process just a little bit harder for tenants. So you really need to be a pro, and you really need to have all your bullets loaded in your application gun to ready to fire off.
That's right. Because when an agent's looking through the paperwork, they sort of give you one good chance to make it right. And then it slows things down when we have to start chasing things up. So let's talk about the application process first, and how that sort of starts. Generally, before lockdown, people were coming to open homes, having a look through. Then if they liked it, they'd put an application online. COVID actually changed things a little bit, because we've now got a lot more people applying based on digital inspection. So whether that be a link where they've looked through, or been on FaceTime with the agent and had a look through, then they've actually put the application in beforehand and then seen the property afterwards, which is interesting. So that means you're in a position to actually apply for the property before seeing it in person. And what's really big, guys, is there's no obligation to carry through with the application once you've seen the property. So we've not taken any money at that point. All you're doing is putting your name forward at the terms you're presenting to take on a lease. But you're not obligated to go through with that. You can have a look at the property once the paperwork's been put in, and then change your mind.
What do you reckon? People are going to go back to the virtual inspections, or they're going to go back to the proper inspections? What do you reckon the trend's going to be?
I think the rollout of more, digital sort of inspections. We've been doing it with video clips on all our listings throughout the website. So that's been helpful for people to get an idea of what they're getting themselves into before they attend the inspection. I think physical inspections are never going to go away. Everyone wants to see what they're looking at. It's like buying clothes, right? Everyone prefers seeing what clothes they're going to buy in person, but the convenience of seeing it online and buying online, no travel time, no waiting in queues, it's massive, and it's changed the game already.
So it's probably going to equate to lower attendances at open houses because they're qualifying it more through that digital process.
That's right. I think, and we've sort of seen that off the back of private appointments versus open homes the first Saturday back. So we've just returned back to normal open homes, and we have seen numbers die down a tad. However, I think people coming through are more qualified than ever because they've got all the resources online. They need to get a pretty good indication whether they like the property or not.
Yeah, right. So that tenant hack, when you're putting your application in, what's the trick? How do you make your application that little bit spunkier so the landlord is going to approve it? How do you make it that? How do you give it that edge, Billy? What's the tips? Tip one.
Tip one, have a good read of what the ad is looking for, what the ad is saying. On all our listings down the bottom, we've got a handy facts section, and that says generally what the landlord's looking for, either a 6 or 12-month lease. If that aligns with what you're looking for, put your term forward, maybe 12 months. That's probably preferable. Short leases are generally not the way to go for most landlords. So
because the landlords don't want to be paying, don't want to be leasing it again in 6 months. They'd rather that longevity and pain free of a long tenant.
Yeah. So
okay.
Point number one, go in for a good lease term that's going to be good for both tenant and landlord. You might even
Point two.
You might even see the agent at the inspection telling you this is what the landlord's looking for. So run with that. Point number two, have all your supporting documents attached with the application when it's presented as soon as you hit submit. I don't know why, Mark, but a lot of people submit an application with no documents attached. So all they're doing is just listing their name, a few references, and a bit about themselves. If we can process the application, then we need ID. So that can be driver's license, passport, anything like that, photo ID, and make sure it's clear. It's preferable you can actually see the image. Point number two, bank statement or some proof of savings. So that can be the form of a screenshot of on your iPhone, or downloaded PDF bank statement, something like that. Number three is some pay slips if you're working. 3 recent pay slips if you're working. Or like I said, if it's not the form of income through work, maybe Centrelink, something like that, some proof of income. Those are the 3 big ones.
Having some good savings in there, just so the landlord doesn't freak out in your ability to pay the rent. Because ability to pay the rent, you can have no job, but you can have $100,000 or $200,000 in your bank account. But make sure you got that proof of there. So that was point number 2. Make sure your application is complete. Don't frustrate the landlord or the agent by putting in part of the application, creating more work for everyone, because potentially another applicant is just going to put the correct information in, all of the information in, and that's what you're naturally going to gravitate towards as an agent or as a landlord. The people that did the paperwork correctly, in full, approve them, and the other guys don't even get a look in. What's the next tip?
Point number 2, if you're applying with a partner or a friend, you're going to need 2 applications. So 1 for each person. Okay, so don't put 2 people on the one application. It's like applying for a passport. You can't do, or a driver's license, 1 per person. Yeah, it's not a family.
Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, we try to see it done. It's not so much people trying to put 2 people on the one application. It's more the second person forgetting they need to do their part. So we often make a call saying, we've got all of his documents. That's perfect. So now I just need the exact same from your mate or your wife or something like that.
Okay.
Kids under 18 are excluded. So
that's good to know. Okay.
Don't need to worry about the kids. If you've got a child over the age of 18, again, they don't need to be on the lease, so they don't necessarily need to fill out the application in full. We just need some ID. We need to know who's living in the property.
Okay. I think we're up to number 4. What's the number 4 hack or sexy application tip?
If you're keen, do not hold around and wait for the rest of, sort of the eggs to all line up. We see very, very often that people will go out on their first Saturday house hunting. They might have 4 properties lined up. Property number 1 they love. However, they won't put an application forward until they get responses about the other 3. Like I said, put an application in with the terms that you want. You've got no obligations to go through with it, but it makes the whole process a lot faster. If we can process all of the paperwork on a Saturday, by the time Monday comes around, you could already be accepted.
So how do people do that? They immediately upon inspecting the property, submit an application on that property. Don't wait for any other property or any other application that you got in waiting. Get it in. So get it in. The early bird catches the worm with the application.
Yeah, it's what most agencies use a website called oneform.com. That's a third party that makes it really easy for house hunters and agents. That is and that sort of auto saves some of the information if you let it. So that makes it a lot quicker.
So as an agent, looking at a tenant's application, do we prefer a PDF completed? Do we prefer a one form? Do we prefer a hard copy to be completed in the office?
One form is easiest. Yeah.
Okay. So, and to do a one form, you can apply on the agent's website or on realestate.com.au. That's
right. Yeah. If the agency is offering it, it will appear. It's generally the most common link that everyone gets referred back to, because it pulls all the applications together. So not only does it make it easier for the agent, which makes things quicker. We're not trying to promote what's just going to be good for us. At the end of the day, it makes things quicker and easier for you.
Okay. Any other tenant hacks?
Look, we've seen in this crazy market.
Sexy application.
Yeah, we've seen in this crazy market people offering over what's being asked. As great as that is, and as much as the landlord likes, it's not necessary all of the time. I think people got a little bit caught up thinking that they're seeing this property at $700 a week, and now they've got it off at $750. It does give you a head start. It does definitely catch an eye when an agent's processing the application, but don't feel obligated to go through it every time. Just make sure that with your documents lined up and you're quick, ready to go, responsive, your references have been notified and they're responsive, you'll be fine.
And we're seeing that a lot more with happening at the moment. I think that's probably a reference of the lack of availability of stock, and probably how many times these guys are missing out. They're just trying to pull any string they can, but it's happening.
It is happening, and you've hit the nail on the head there, Mark. Rent up front is another one that gets thrown around every now and then. So some people are willing to pay a couple of months rent up front. They know they've got to pay the rent anyway. So if they've got that savings sitting there, they can put
in their account.
A few thousand just aside to pay up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before we go, any other hacks?
I think we've covered the most of them. Speed will be your best friend. So if you're keen on a property, just move fast.
Well said.
Be responsive. Notify your references. That's a big one, because a lot of people sometimes don't know they're getting a call, and then they think we're a hacker.
Okay, so when people are so when you fill out a rental application, you got to put a couple of personal references, and you got to put maybe a couple of rental references of rental properties that you've been at before. So that may be old landlords or old landlords' agents. Now, as a tenant, call your old agent or current agent and let them know, and call your referees that you've put on the application and let them know. And that'll probably just keep them on the front foot, and it'll keep that reference a bit more silky smooth. So when we call across and say, hey, what are these guys like? They'll go, yes, blah, 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 blah. They're great.
Yeah. Another one, we've seen a lot of people moving back from overseas. It's really hard to get a reference from someone overseas with time zone and things like that. Maybe get a letter from them. Get a letter signed with the address that you were living up at the top. That can also be, a good as first step to picking up the phone and leaving a voice message or things like that. Makes it quicker. And then if you need any more information, just leave the email address.
It would be pretty hard to get a letter out of your rental agent once you've moved into Australia. So, but if you're watching this before you move out of your rental overseas, try to get some sort of reference of how long you've been there for. Quality of how you're going to leave the property, they don't know because you haven't moved out. But I just think for a landlord's verification that you just were overseas is pretty cool. So try to get that before you move out, or definitely after you move out from your agent overseas. That's a big one. There's a lot of people coming overseas at the moment. I think it's that time of year.
Yeah. So on that letter, if you can get it from that agent, we're looking to confirm the address you were staying at, the rent you were paying per week, and how long you've been there. Like Mark said, you can't verify whether the bond's going to be released because you're not out at that stage yet. But those 3 points there will help.
And that is your tenant's hack and how to put in a sexy rental application if you're a tenant in this rental market that's a little bit tough at the moment. Thanks for watching. Billy, thanks for doing the show.
Cheers, Mark. Have a good day. Have a good one,
Speak
guys.
soon, guys. Have a great Monday. See ya.